Hey, Dee, kind of a short week.
It is kind of a short week. It's because we recorded on Monday and now we're recording on Fridays, which I think we're going to switch to Fridays again.
Yes,
Shall we get started?
we shall get started. Welcome to the Garden Angelist, where we chat about flowers, veggies, and all the best dirt. I'm Carol Michael from Indianapolis, Indiana. I have a suburban garden measured in square feet. It's about 1/3 of an acre.
I'm Dee Nash from Guthrie, Oklahoma. I still have a large garden out in the country. In fact, I have 2 gardens, but hopefully the one garden will sell soon.
We are Garden Angelists because we love gardening, and we want you to love it too.
Yes, we do. And we aren't afraid to spill all of our gardening secrets, the good, the bad, and even the ugly. But let's move on to this week's episode. Carol, tell me about your garden. How does your garden grow?
My garden grows ever so slowly, it seems. I have picked green beans 3 times.
Mhm.
I've kind of kept the garden pretty much weeded. I picked one lousy squash. I did mow the lawn.
Uh-huh.
I wish my garden would produce more produce. And actually, while I was waiting this morning, you said, could we go a half hour later? I wrote a blog post with 4 techniques to get your garden to produce.
Nice. Maybe that could be next week's episode.
Well, yeah, the blog will be out tomorrow, Saturday morning. So
Yeah,
anyway,
so we could use that as our vegetable topic because that's always our.
don't you want to know the 4 techniques?
Oh, no, I want to know them next week when we put it as our vegetable topic.
Okay. All right.
Okay, so there you go.
And then I didn't tell you the end of the story about that raccoon I found in my garden.
No, but we didn't talk about that on here, so you need to back up and talk about that and then tell me.
Okay, so during the heat wave
Mm-hmm.
last week, I guess it was. So I was out watering, and I went around to where there's a gate between me and my neighbor,
Mm-hmm.
and there was a raccoon laying there
Okay.
and looking at me. And I'm looking at the raccoon thinking, go away. And it just laid there. And I
Uh-huh.
thought, oh no. So I gently sprayed it with water thinking, now you'll go away. And then it's like, oh, relief from the heat. Thank you, lady. And I'm like, this raccoon is hurt.
Yeah.
So anyway,
Probably so.
I left and ran some errands, and when I was coming back, I thought, oh my gosh, if that raccoon is still there, is it going to be dead? What am I going to do with a dead raccoon? It was trash day. That's what I could do. Anyway, it was gone when I got back.
Yeah, you told me that.
So I talked to my neighbor, and he said, yeah, there's a hurt raccoon running around. It can't hardly walk on one paw. He says, it's been eating over on my patio. And I'm like, would you please have it come back to your patio? Because if it decides to die, I would like it to die in your yard, not mine. And then it's your problem. So a couple of days later,
Uh-huh.
I'm watering on the patio, and as I kind of go to the one side, I thought, something doesn't smell right over here.
Oh, no.
No, I looked and looked, couldn't find anything. The next day, I thought, I got to look again. Nothing. And then the smell went away, and I have no idea what happened to the raccoon, which is sort of like a duddy into this story. I have no idea.
No, it's good because remember the time when the armadillo ran underneath my house?
Oh,
I had to
yes.
put in lime and all this other stuff.
Oh,
Yeah,
yes.
you're lucky. You're lucky that thing went away.
So anyway, I don't know. I'll have to, when I see my neighbor again, I'll have to ask him if he knows what happened to the raccoon.
So things in my garden are a lot less exciting. Why is my face so much bigger than yours?
If you lean back a little bit, it's that
Well,
new
I'm
computer.
trying to, but now I'm like so far away, I can't see the notes. I mean, it's bizarre. I have a new computer. I think that's part of the problem.
When I got I bought a Mac Neo.
Uh-huh.
I tried to test Zoom, and my face was right there, and I did something.
Well, we'll fix it because I look like my head is 3 times the size.
Will we lean in? How about your
Okay.
garden this week? Stop worrying about the size of your head, Dee. In that
So
regard.
not much happened here. I kept everything alive. I went to the old house, did some straightening up on the outside because we have people looking at it. I kept things watered in the heat. But then I should say that the electricity went out in my old neighborhood because of that storm that blew through. And it took them days to get it back on. And so I have a generator. So everything was fine. But they kept telling me, we think the power's back on. You need to tell us if it's on or off. And so I would run back over there. It was still off. And so finally, in the midst of all this, this is getting around to gardening. So then in that group text that I'm still part of, one of the ladies said, "Hey, I have way too many tomatoes." And I said, "Me, I'll take them." And so I went over there and I got some tomatoes and they're fabulous. And last night, Megan and my granddaughter came over and they ate so many tomatoes. It was hilarious because the lady gave me way too much, but that's okay. It was awesome, and I was glad to share them. And there's nothing like homegrown tomatoes.
There isn't. I wish I had more than just a few cherry tomatoes to pick.
These were nice big slicers and a couple of mid seasons. Little the salad tomatoes. I had some
Right.
put them on I put them on good white bread that's gluten-free, and I did turkey instead of bacon because I can't do bacon, but it was delicious. So that's
Good.
my garden update, and then we should play favorites now.
Favorites, go for it.
I think it's the sunflowers in the back because they're starting to finally do something. Finally.
That's nice.
It's been a slow, slow sunflower year. So, we've also gotta change that setting that moves my background around because that's
Yeah.
irritating too. When you get a new computer, it really is hard to get everything set back up the way you liked it.
Yeah, I would, we could stop and look at settings, but we'll just plow through.
We're just gonna power on. Okay, so what's your favorite this week?
I'm gonna go with coneflowers. Staying
They
on
are
topic.
pretty this year.
They're very pretty. I've got some. They're very pretty. And anyway, we'll talk more about coneflowers because that's going to be our flower topic as well. So, question of the week. You must have
Uh-huh.
got this question.
Yeah, because I get it every year over and over again.
How
And
do I grow a wildflower meadow from seed? Well, let me give an answer, Dee,
yeah.
that you don't do. You don't just go buy a packet of wildflower seeds at the hardware store or the big box store and
Mhm.
then go out there and scrape it up a little bit and toss the seed and wait for it to become a wildflower meadow. That is not the way to do it.
No, it's actually quite complicated, and anytime I get
Well,
this
not complicated.
well,
It has more steps.
I think it's pretty complicated here because we have Bermuda grass.
Oh, well, that complicates everything.
It does, it complicates everything, and people always wanna grow it, like, right out in the center of their Bermuda lawn, and I'm like, "Well, first thing you gotta do is get rid of that Bermuda lawn." So my newest answer because this is really, like it's a lengthy answer if you're gonna answer this for people, and I'm like, I can't. So I tell them that they should go get the book Mini Meadows by Mike Lazzotti because he explains it well. He owns the company that makes the seed, that gathers the seed, I should say. He
American
just
meadows.
he just does a great job. And so that's what I tell people now. One thing you don't understand in Oklahoma is that we have Bermuda grass. And so Bermuda grass is hard to get rid of. And you have to get rid of it first because the meadow seeds cannot compete with it. That's
True that.
that's the short answer, and to get rid of it, you have to spray a chemical for it, and some people don't wanna do that because the people who wanna create meadows tend to wanna be kind of organic, right? Because they're
Yes.
for pollinators. Well, it's you can't just put down cardboard or plastic, it will not get rid of your deal. And I thought I was the only one who believed that, and then I went to a really good conference on native plants, and the people all said the same thing. They said, "Yeah, you can put down plastic for a whole summer, but you're still gonna have to spray it. So you might wanna spray it and then put down plastic." It's just complicated. So, my advice is read that book.
Exactly. And also in my neighborhood, putting in a meadow, a true meadow would be a little bit of neighbors would be verklempt because,
Mhm.
they're not used to
Mine
seeing
too.
something like that.
Mine too. You would have to do it in the backyard,
Yes.
because
In the
my neighbors would go, "Wait a minute, we have all of our perfect Bermuda lawns, and we love them."
okay.
I think they're already verklempt at my flower bed because it's kind of a meadow and kind of a it's wild, but you know what? Love
My
it.
front bed, it looks a little bit on the wild side, and I'm like, I grass is cut, everything's good.
Yeah,
Insect of the week, and you texted me and said, "We don't have an insect of the week."
and then I came up with one.
Blue orchard mason bee.
Mhm. Do you have any of those?
I'm gonna have to click on this link to see
They're
if
blue.
I
They're pretty cool.
you know what? I do
Friend
have
Karen
these.
Collier has them, and she made nests for them. And everything else. So it's a small solitary bee, like most native bees in the United States. It's an excellent pollinator, especially of fruit trees. That's why they're called an orchard bee. And
Right.
related to leafcutter bees, which we talked about last week.
Yes.
And you can, if you want them in your garden, you can either make nesting boxes for them, which isn't too hard, or you can buy them. And we're going to give you a link to where you can buy them. And I think they're fascinating because they get this food and they roll it up into a ball, like pollen and nectar
Uh-huh.
mixed together. The female, well, first they mate, and then the female rolls this up into a ball and she puts it into these holes, which look like pencil holes to me.
Right.
And she goes in and she puts that little ball of food and then she lays an egg on it and then she seals it up. And then she does the same thing for 5 or 6 times. And they're quite prolific. And it took Karen a while to get hers established because I didn't know this until I read up on it, but they stay in there the whole entire year until the next year.
Hmm.
Like they go from larva to pupa to adult. And then even as adults, they stay in that little spot. And then in the next spring, they come out and they mate.
Right. I'm just trying to think if you didn't have these boxes, what holes would they use?
I think they probably make holes they use empty holes in houses or in
Trees.
maybe. I don't know. I just know that they're really pretty because I've been at her old house. She moved to. I've been at her old house and I've seen them come out and they're amazing, actually.
Yeah. And if you looked at them quickly, you might mistake them for a big fly, because they have that bluish color like a fly.
They do, but they're not. They're bees and they don't
They're
sting
bees.
you. So it's cool.
No.
They're very, very cool. So if you want to have a native pollinator and you want to attract it, you can do the nesting boxes.
There you go. And that is the blue orchard mason bee. We'll put links. And now we'll do a quote and I'll talk about the flower, which I already gave it away what it is. Wildflowers can't be controlled, and neither can the girl with a soul boundless as the sky and a spirit as free and wild as the ocean. Melody Lee, Moon Gypsy.
I just liked the quote. I thought it was
Yeah,
cool.
it's a very good quote.
So our flower this week is the Echinacea, which is a native
Coneflowers.
flower and often in a wildflower mix.
Yes,
But there are cultivars too.
there are. And I called it the Enterprise of Echinaceas. And it seems like, I don't know, maybe just because we're paying attention, that in the last 10, 15 years, there's just every spring, there's new varieties of these Echinaceas. And they tend to come out in series. And remember, though, I think it goes back almost 15, 20 years ago. There was a whole series of them that came out, and they were huge duds.
They were duds because they mixed the yellow echinacea, which is native, with the other echinacea, which is purple, and they got some things, and then they also used tissue culture, and it just didn't work very well. And they
No,
tried their best to tell us things. I remember us being at meetings, and they'd say, "Well, tell everybody just to cut off all the flowers the first season." And I was like, um,
really?
yeah, nobody wants to do that, first of all. And even if you do, it didn't work. I mean, I remember one of them was called tomato soup, and another
I
one
was
was
just
called
thinking of
mac and
tomato soup.
cheese.
That's the only one I could
Mac and
remember was
cheese, that was the other one. And
don't
it
buy
was
anything, don't buy your coneflowers that are named after food.
food. Yeah, that's a dumb idea.
I
So
don't think they're on the market anymore, because that's the other thing is the market quickly dismisses plants
that don't
that
work.
that didn't work.
But it really makes the consumer mad when you bring out something special and then it's crap. That's
Especially the prices that they charge sometimes for a gallon-size
yeah,
container of
19.99 sometimes, and I'm
well,
like,
back
"That's
then it was probably like $9.99, but still it was a, big chunk of change.
big chunk of change because you usually don't just buy one coneflower. You usually wanna plant them in 3s and 5s because they're not a
Right.
super big plant. So, we named some that we think are good, and I left out one of them, but I'll tell it. The Powwow series is great. It's a short one, and it needs to be in
Yes.
front of the border. Powwow Wildberry is just tough as nails.
And I have it over in my pink garden over there by the garage. And that garden, I mean, I will water to establish stuff for a few weeks, but after that, it is all on its own. There's no easy way to get a hose over there other than me dragging it over there. So it's done really well and it's a nice pop of color.
It is. It's really pretty. It's a great kind of a pinky purple. It's really beautiful. There's also powwow white. I don't think powwow white is as strong as powwow wildberry.
I would agree.
Personal opinion. And then you brought up the sombrero series. That is a huge series now. We got some test plants back in the day, and mine did really, really well for a long time. And then they just went away, which I'm going to say that about Echinacea. Sometimes it'll do really well for 3 to 5 years and then it goes away. Just don't get so wound up on every single perennial has to stay perennial forever, because sometimes they don't.
They're not all peonies.
No, they're not all peonies. That's for darn sure. And then I do like the sombrero series. Those all come in kind of hot colors, hence the name sombrero. And then you brought up artesian red twister. I don't have that one. Artisan.
I don't have it either, but if you want, all these are single colors. If you want something that's got a little bit of two color to it, that artesian red twister looks pretty nice.
There was that other twister or twist something or other, which was the lime green and pinky purple one. I tried growing it from seed. I tried growing it every which way. It didn't work.
I'm also not opposed and have in my garden just coneflowers.
Yeah, just regular coneflowers like Echinacea purpurea,
Yes.
and then there's also all of the echinaceas. Like there are some that grow like where I walk in my neighborhood. There's some that just grow out in the wild, and they're the narrow leaf coneflower.
Right. But
And
we won't talk about those.
they grow in like the worst dirt ever.
Oh, yeah.
So you can't just dig those up and transplant them because they don't want to be in your good soil.
No, they do
Yeah,
not.
rocky, crummy soil. Okay, and then the other series I love is Cheyenne. Is it Cheyenne Spirit? I always get the
Yes.
mixed up. Yeah, because there's a grass called Cheyenne Skies, which is a panicum, but Cheyenne Spirit. So Cheyenne Spirit, which we've talked about before, the thing you have to know about it is it's a seed mix, and so it grows in all different colors, all different heights. Just don't be too wound up about the fact that you're going to get different colors if you grow it from seed. In recent years, I've seen it at the box stores in colored pots. I'm not sure how they're doing that, but like the red ones in the red pot, the orange ones in an orange,
Yeah.
purple ones in the purple pot. I don't know how they do it. I bought several this year from where I work because Melissa brought them in, and they're doing great in the back beds. They're happy and growing like crazy.
Now, I will like to say that there's double varieties, and they look like a big pom-pom with petals coming out. I hate them.
I don't like them for a couple of reasons. I mean, they kind of look weird. I just, whatever.
They kind of look weird.
But
They're not pollinator friendly.
Yeah. You say that again. I talked over you.
They're not pollinator friendly.
Right, because they can't get to the nectar or the pollen.
No.
So you might as well, buy some that you can help pollinators too. Why not?
Exactly.
Okay, so here's the growing guide. You're going to tell them.
Full sun.
Yep.
Heights range from 1 to 3 feet. Like the powwow is like maybe a foot, but the native purpurea is 3 feet.
Yeah.
They are deer resistant, according to what I read. I have no experience with deer, so you tell me.
I've not ever had a deer eat them.
They're drought tolerant once established, which is basically true of many of the wildflowers.
That's true.
They're tough. We talked in beginning about, deadheading the first year. You can let them bloom, but do deadhead them to encourage more bloom.
Yeah.
Especially the first couple of years. Let them bloom, but then deadhead them because you don't want them to go into seed production. You want them to go into root production.
Yeah.
And you can leave seeds for the birds to nibble on, the favorite of the finches.
Yeah, finches love them. And they land on them and just sit there in the winter. It's lovely.
Now the bad news.
Aster yellows.
Aster yellows is a disease that can infect coneflowers and a host of other things.
Yes.
It causes chlorosis, yellowing of the leaves, while the veins remain green.
Mm-hmm.
If you get flowers that look deformed and they have little tufts of deformed leaves coming out of the flowers or in place of the flowers.
Yeah. And they're
that
green.
Is aster yellows.
They're almost always green too. They don't have any petals. They just look like the green center. I can spot it every time, and you need to pull it out. You need to pull out the
That is the only cure.
berries.
There is no cure. Pull it
No.
out, put it in the trash, and then if you go somewhere and you see it grown in pots and you see aster yellow in those pots or what looks not very good, back
Mhm.
away, don't buy those.
No, don't buy those.
And
Some of
I
my
would think at a good garden center, they would recognize that something had aster yellows and they'd pull it from the shelves. But at the big box stores,
I know.
nobody's got a clue. Just don't get them.
And I've had several clients reach out and say, "Look at this cool new flower that my
Not cool.
coneflower made." And I have to say, "Get that out of there quick, please,
Yeah, and put it in the trash
because
quick
it's
as a
gonna
bunny.
spread. It's gonna spread, and you're gonna hate that."
We're gonna link to a Missouri botanical garden that tells more about this disease, how it does spread, and all the other things, so you can we don't wanna end on that bad note, but we are ending on that bad note.
That's okay. We're gonna talk
Coneflowers,
about
plant them in your
food.
garden.
I'm gonna do the next quote. "I'm going to give you a handful of wildflowers, so each petal that falls will remind you that the earth breathes and the moon rises." And that's by Carolyn Riker. My dear love hasn't forgotten you. My dear love hasn't forgotten you. There's a comma in there.
Yes.
Okay, vegetables. You said you need to share some of these summer recipes that you talk about all the time.
Yes, because when I'm a very plain vegetable cooker. I mean, I just saute my squash with a little bit of onion, my zucchini squash, and eat that.
Mhm.
Green beans, I cook with maybe a couple new potatoes and some onions and just kinda steam them. 'Em. I'm not a fancy cooker. I will have a bacon, lettuce, and tomato sandwich with the tomato. I'm not making a bunch of wild sauces. But you, on the other hand, go
Well,
all wild.
sometimes, not always. So, I've been really into Bulgarian food this year because I'm friends with a Bulgarian and he cooks. And so he shares recipes with me. And sometimes I can find them and sometimes I can't because I take screenshots and then they get lost in my photos. But I went and found links to all of these recipes except one that I'm going to talk about first. So I fry squash and I fry it according to my grandmother's recipe. And that recipe is on my blog. And he asked me, he goes, how do you eat your squash? And I told him. And then he said, I have a recipe for you that you don't have to fry it. And he goes, sometimes you don't want to fry. And I was like, okay. And so this is how you do it. It's not hard. You chop up the zucchini into cubes and then you put it into a pan with olive oil, some herbs, or salt and pepper, whatever you want, and water. And then you cook it until the squash is translucent. And then you dip that squash out of there and you put it in your oven. You put it on a baking deal. You put it in your oven and then you just bake it along with whatever else you're baking. And he said it's going to taste a lot like your fried squash. And I was like, there's no way. There's no way, right? Well, it does. It does taste a lot like your fried squash. There's just not any breading on it, but it does because of the olive oil, it soaks into that zucchini and so it
Right?
makes it crisp up. Megan came over, like I said last night, and she ate well, I had a serving, she had the rest, and she was like, "This is unbelievably good." And I was like, "Yeah, it's really good." So, with that, I'm gonna share the other recipes. All right, so in their culture, one of the most famous things they make is shopska salad. To find these, I had to go find them in English because, it's Cyrillic and it's really hard to you know what I mean? So I found
Right.
so the shopska salad is tomatoes, cucumbers, I think it has onion and something else, and it's a really good summer salad. They eat it with everything in the summer.
I would eat that if my garden would produce those cucumbers and
Yeah,
tomatoes.
you need to produce those tomatoes and cucumbers because okay, so that's one thing, and I think it has cucumbers. Oh lord, I may have told you guys wrong. But anyway, we'll have the link to the recipe. All right, then the other one is cold yogurt cucumber soup, which they call tarator. And that has cucumbers, yogurt, because remember, Bulgarian yogurt has a different bacillium than other yogurts, but you can get
Right?
Greek. Greek works fine. That one has dill in it, and everybody says it's amazing and it's really refreshing because it does get hot there in the summer. So those are my 3 vegetable recipes from Bulgaria. I'm not gonna share the last
So,
thing because it'll come up.
back up to the
Shopska
Shopska
salad.
salad. It's got 8 small tomatoes diced, 2
Uh-huh.
cucumbers diced, 1 large green pepper de-seeded and diced, 1 large red pepper de-seeded and diced, and 6 green onions chopped.
Okay, so the version I've seen of it on Instagram does not have the peppers, but maybe so. And if I were gonna put peppers in it, I would use mild chili peppers instead of bell peppers because they honestly kinda upset my stomach, so there you go. And then the cold cucumber soup, let's make sure I'm telling you guys right. I think it has breadcrumbs on the top too. Anyway, no, it has walnuts. That's the thing that's so weird about it. So it has a large English cucumber, garlic cloves, salt, olive oil, fresh dill, yogurt, water, and chopped walnuts. You put those on the top. And you really do need to have the walnuts. There's a guy over there in Bulgaria who shared eating this soup for the first time, and he was like, "It does not sound good." He goes, "Oh my gosh, it's amazing." So that's the next thing I'm gonna make. I'll try to take a picture of it. I don't know if I'll get it done by
So
tomorrow.
and you also linked to a ground meat sandwich recipe.
Well, I wasn't gonna share it, but we'll share it really quickly. The name of this sandwich is called Princesses. I have no idea why. It's on bread, and it's a ground meat thing, and it kind of reminds me of what they make their meatballs out of. It has ground beef or pork, or you can combine the two, egg, onion, and then you use oregano or savory, and then black pepper, cumin, coriander, and ginger, and then you use bread. To do it, I would have to use gluten-free rolls, but there's a really good one now. Anyway, they eat that for breakfast and sometimes for lunch, and you can buy it also in bakeries, chopped up. But they call it princesses, and honestly, I don't know where the name comes from. They have,
Ki
you know.
It kind of reminds me of an appetizer that my sister always makes at Christmas time called Polish mistakes.
Okay, so it could be that they're from, sort of the same background.
So it's like a Polish sausage mix,
Mhm.
and then you put it on, and she puts it on little rye bread, and then
That
it's
sounds good.
toasted. It's delicious,
It
and you
sounds
can quickly eat many of those, and you're thinking, "This is good," and it's just like 2 or 3 bites each,
yeah.
and you another 2 or 3 bites each, but yeah, that looks those princesses look good to me.
Well, and he sent me pictures of various ways they do it, and he was like, "This is all done these ways, but it's all called princesses." And I was like, "Looks delicious to me. It looks like your meatballs, and the meatballs are amazing." So, best meatballs I ever had in my life. All right, so that's our vegetable in one meat
Yes.
recipe.
So if any of our listeners have a favorite summer vegetable recipe, sorry we got off on a meat sandwich, a favorite vegetable recipe that they think we should try with the basics, like squash, tomatoes, cucumbers,
Cucumbers. Yeah.
peppers, stuff you would pull out of your garden, please share them if you have a secret family recipe.
Yeah, because my family always did cucumbers and onions in a vinaigrette,
Yes.
which is another good salad. So there's a lot of good salads out there, and if your garden ever starts to produce, you'll have a lot of veggies
Well, I've given you I've got 4 techniques on my blog post, which we'll link to it so people can read it before we talk about
before
it.
we talk about it next week.
Okay.
Do the quote, girl.
Here's the thing about wildflowers. They take root wherever they are, grow strong through the wind, rain, pain, sunshine, blue skies, and starless nights. They dance even when it seems there is nothing worth dancing, for they bloom with or without you. And that is Alicia Christensen, Still Growing Wildflowers. What a
I've been
nice
going and
analogy.
finding our quotes in interesting places because
There you go.
this is our 8th season, isn't it?
8th season, and this is our 25th episode of that 8th season. So we're
Of the
halfway
8th
through
season.
8th season. We're at eight and a
Halfway.
half.
Can't believe it. Okay, so you have this wonderful book, and where is my copy?
I don't think you have a copy.
I don't? Okay.
No.
Okay.
This is A Naturalist Book of Wildflowers Celebrating 85 Native Plants of North America by Laura C. Martin. It was published in 2021.
Mhm.
And according to Amazon, it is a charmingly illustrated keepsake and guide to native wild plants of North America.
Uh-huh.
And here's what I really like about this book, which has been on my shelf since 2021, is let me find a good illustration. It's illustrated. It's little simple watercolor drawings, so it's just
Oh, it's
exquisitely
pretty.
beautiful.
Yeah.
And then and it's divided by colors.
Oh, I
And
like
so
that.
for every plant, it tells you when it blooms,
Mhm.
its habitat and range. Wildlife partners, I like this. So I just picked wild strawberry, which I have growing. The flowers provide nectar and pollen. They are important plants for native bees, honeybees, flies, small butterflies, skippers, and beetles. The leaves are larval hosts for the grizzled skipper and the gray hair streak, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And then they have a conservation section.
Mhm.
So it says whether it's abundant or common and abundant. And so, like, I just turned to a flower called Pipsissewana, common Pipsissewana. I don't know.
Why did you pick that one? Is
I
it
don't know, so I
not
could
called
embarrass
Cordell?
myself by mispronouncing. But anyway, in conservation, it says of special concern in some parts of its range, it is threatened or endangered in Iowa, Ohio, New York, and Illinois. I don't know about Indiana. We're right between those states.
Probably is that.
And then it talks about in the garden where it would be used and if there are related species. And so it's
Hmm.
really very, very handy and useful. Like that bee balm.
Yeah,
Um,
which I gotta say, bee balm grew in my upper pasture better than anything else.
right. And some
Bernarda
species,
fistula or something like that.
yeah, some species are considered endangered, like the spotted bee balm. And then, the wildlife partners, I love that. Obviously, the ruby-throated hummingbirds rely on bee balm. How to
Mhm.
use in the garden, medicinal uses if there are any. So, and then each one, and here I just happen to turn to coneflowers,
There you go.
purple
And it
coneflowers.
shows the American goldfinch right on top of them,
Exactly.
which overwinters in Oklahoma.
It says, though a common garden plant, purple coneflower is not often found growing in the wild. The endangered smooth coneflower is found only in 2 Georgia counties and a
Yeah.
few other places of the Southeast.
Yeah, there's a
So
Tennessee
anyway,
one that's almost endangered
if,
too. Is
you
endangered.
know, wildflower books, they can be overwhelming.
Right, and that one's not.
This one is not overwhelming. It is every flower, you get the same information and it's well laid out. I think it's really a good one. And
Yeah, it's a good one. It
so I
is.
keep this on my shelf. A Naturalist Book of Wildflowers Celebrating 85 Native Plants of North America by Laura C. Martin. Anyway, I like it.
Okay, I'm gonna do the next quote. On either side of the wild roses, their pink, dewy faces turned to the sun, tumbled over the fences, sprawled on the ground, and filled the air with their pure, summery smell. And that's by Betty McDonald, and it's Nancy and Plum is the name of the book. I just love the quote.
That's a good one.
Your dirt is cute.
So the dirt is another Instagram account called Jeremiah_farmer. And he describes himself as Elizabeth's husband and Magnolia and Scarlett's dad, farm and garden tips. His accent is real. This man is from South Carolina and he grows a big vegetable garden and he's out there with his 2 supervisors, which are his 2
They're
daughters.
adorable.
Adorable. And they're growing all kinds of stuff. And he's giving out some great advice. Here's the thing. It just, here's this guy. He's just enjoying life, these 2 daughters. And
Mhm.
up pops this post recently that he just got his PhD
Mhm. I'm
and
trying to look
his
them up, but I'm having to sign into my Instagram. Keep going.
so his dissertation is Speaking Southern, a phenomena phenomenological exploration of the lived experiences of college students with a Southern dialect.
He wrote that?
That's his PhD thesis.
Wow. Okay.
I think he got it at Clemson. I may be wrong, but he had a lot of Clemson shirts on there. But oh gosh, it is just the sweetest thing, and they have a much longer growing season. This man is already harvesting his watermelons and
Yeah.
cantaloupe.
Well, and they have a longer one than me too, and ours is
Yes, they're
pretty
planting their
long.
second crops. If they planted sweet corn, they harvested all that, and then they showed planting their field corn and why he
Yeah.
grows field corn. And some things he's growing tobacco just to show how tobacco's grown. But they also have pigs, a
Yeah.
couple of pigs, and his little daughters, the supervisors, are always out there helping him.
Well, the one you sent me, they were planting pumpkins, and he was talking about how hard it is to grow pumpkins in the South. And
Right.
it was just the cutest. I mean, these are cute. He's cute. I mean, he's like in his, I'd say his 30s maybe.
I don't know how
And
old he
he
is.
has
Yeah.
long hair and he always wears these t-shirts. They're funny. So
And then,
it's a very sweet deal.
yes. And he's very proud of his Southern roots and rightly so. My God, they're potato harvest already. I couldn't believe it.
Yeah. Yeah, we harvest
So
potatoes about now. Yeah.
anyway,
It's totally different
that's,
from your climate. Totally.
yes.
Which is okay. That's a good
So
thing, right?
we'll link to Jeremiah Farmer, not that he needs our help. I forget how many followers he had, a bunch.
Well, I'll tell you. I'll tell you because I just followed him. He has 56,100
That's
followers.
not shabby.
Way more than I do. So good for him.
All right. It's easy to get lost in surviving, but to live is to be conscious, to walk through a field of flowers and stop to feel the softness of each petal, to inhale the perfume of each blossom. Tara Shelton Harris, Where the Wildflowers Grow.
So my rabbit hole was the blue orchard mason bee. I had to go look up some information about it.
So I wrote about another lost lady of garden writing, Catherine S. White, and I asked the question. I got a few answers. Do you know her as a garden writer? As the fiction editor at the New Yorker when she was alive? Or as the wife of E.B. White?
I know her as a garden writer first, but then E.B. White. Yeah.
Yes. And so that was kind of fun to some people are like, I had no idea she was E.B. White. I had no idea she was a fiction editor at the New Yorker. That's where
Yeah.
she
Yeah,
met
yeah.
E.B. White. But anyway, I
And her name
wrote,
is spelled it's spelled Katharine,
yes,
which is different than the normal Catherine.
yes, yes. And then somebody sent me an email and said, by the way, have you heard of this other lady? And I'm like, no. So I looked her up, and the book is coming today, and I'll have more about that later. And you have
Cool.
never heard of this person. I had never heard of this person, and somebody put it together a book of all her bunch of her garden columns and articles and stuff. So
That's cool.
it's very cool. So that was my little bit of a rabbit hole this week.
I love her. I think she's awesome. She's one of the very first people I read a compilation of her columns and
Catherine S. White.
Mhm.
I like it because the letters that she and Elizabeth Lawrence exchange in Two Gardeners.
Yeah, it's great.
Yes.
Mhm.
And when you read those unfiltered letters, my favorite kind of book to get, unfiltered letters that they never thought were going to be published.
Yeah.
Although
Okay.
they saved them all, so there you go.
People just used to save letters and they'd reread them later.
Yes.
In fact, I know this because I have a friend that she and I traded letters for like 20 years. So, a garden to visit, the Dallas Arboretum. I suggested it and you were like, "Oh, it was so hot."
Oh my gosh. I can't tell you much about the Dallas Arboretum other than you and I sitting on a bench in the shade thinking, it is hot out here.
It was really hot. That day we were in the middle of a heat wave and even in
Uh,
Texas it was a heat wave and it was just
it
mis
was over 100.
yeah. So the things I remember about the Dallas Arboretum is I remember that alley of crepe myrtles, those huge crepe myrtles, and they leaned you don't
No
remember that at
recollection
all.
of it.
You know,
No
that's so funny.
recollection.
They were in full bloom, Carol. How could you miss that?
No recollection.
And there's a famous house, which this property was, a person's property, and so their mansion is still there. And the other thing is, I've been there in the fall, and they have a giant pumpkin display that is amazing. And when you think about what it takes to do a pumpkin display at the Dallas Arboretum, because it's still hot in October, so they have to pull out rotten pumpkins and put them back, and put new
Yeah,
ones in. It's quite the ordeal, and they're famous for it. They're also famous for their tulips, which again, it's really hard to grow tulips in Texas. So it's a
yeah, it
cool
is.
place.
But you want to time your visit
Yeah, you do.
so that it's not hot. Because if it's hot, you ain't doing nothing. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
So anyway, I'm fixing the link. We had a weird link to that didn't really take us there. Got it fixed.
Okay.
And
I think we have.
right now they have a large scale installation by internationally recognized artist Hunt Slonim, bunnies, birds, and butterflies. And
Oh,
they
that
show
would be
these
cool.
giant sculptures of bunnies. So, yeah, I'm sure it's a lovely place. I'm sure I would enjoy it more if it wasn't so hot, but yes. And, you look at these pictures and I'm like, I've been there. I must have just sat in the shade saying, "It's hot out here."
Well, it was. It was so hot.
All right. Garden commissions.
Mine's just keep things alive and go weed the paths over at the old house. Somebody come buy the house so I don't have to do this anymore. You guys take
There you go.
or get rid of the gardens. I don't care.
There you go. Well, I'm going to hopefully pick ripe tomatoes, squash, and cucumbers this next week. Continue with what I call weed management. Of course, I have to mow the lawn, and then at the end of the week, we'll record another podcast episode. Is that it?
That's it, girl.
Thank you for listening to The Garden Angelist. We publish every week on Wednesdays at 12 a.m. Eastern Time. Be sure and follow us on Apple Podcasts. That helps us get noticed by others.
If you subscribe to our Substack newsletter, you get a link to listen to the podcast an entire day early. And you get links to the products we discuss, including the books. Plus, go over to YouTube and you can see us in person and see how bad my hair looks today. Full episodes show up on Tuesdays, so if you can't wait until Wednesday, you now have 2 ways to get episodes on Tuesdays.
If you want to help support us, use our affiliate links. If you buy something after clicking through on them, we earn a small commission and it costs you nothing.
Or you can set up a monthly subscription through Buzzsprout or make a one-time donation through PayPal. You also have the option of pledging your support on Substack.
Thank you to everyone who has done so. It helps us pay for podcast hosting.
It was lovely to chat with all of you over the Garden Gate. Bye until next week.
Bye, everybody.